Hello, everyone, and welcome to the latest episode of the Metabolism and Menopause podcast. My name is Stephanie, and I am your host and CEO of Vitality OET. We are a women's nutrition, health, and fitness company that focuses predominantly on women's hormones, particularly as they start going through perimenopause and onwards. We know that you start experiencing so many changes in this time of your life, whether that be hot flashes, night sweats, irritability, brain fog, or weight gain around the middle that seems to have come out of absolutely nowhere despite you not changing anything. So you go back to cutting calories, cutting carbs, doing a bunch of cardio, yet nothing seems to be working. You end up feeling worse, or the scale even starts moving in the opposite direction of what you want. But we know now that your body is inherently different than it was prior to you experiencing these hormonal changes that you're going through. So our mission here at Vitality is to help you understand what's going on in your body during this time of your life so that you can finally reach your health and fitness goals, live a life full of vitality, and really understand how to take care of this new body of yours. So you guys, we're here. End of 2023. We are hopping into 2024. So crazy. So you know what that means. I've mentioned it before. New Year's resolutions are coming up, right? We're all getting ready for whatever the goals might be for the year. And for a lot of people, meal prep tends to be one of these things because they're wanting to lose weight. And meal prepping does help you be successful. But the whole thought of meal prepping can be incredibly overwhelming because what we imagine are all these containers with perfectly portioned out meals. Everything is measured perfectly, and they're stacked up in your fridge. They're all labeled. But the truth is you don't have to do that. I have never done that. I will probably never do that because for me, that's not realistic with my lifestyle, the way that I like to eat. And especially if you have families, having little Tupperware containers doesn't always work. And you want to eat with your families. You want to be able to have exactly what they're having. You don't want to be eating super differently or anything like that, right? So today I want to cover how to actually meal prep for menopause fat loss in a realistic way, in a simple way that makes sense, that allows you to enjoy food with your friends and your family, and you don't feel restricted, that still sets you up for success. So before I hop into that, I just want to give you a reminder of our Menopause Fat Loss Workshop that is set to start in January. What this looks like is you fill out an assessment with us, then you'll have a coach who is going to create a customized plan for you with nutrition, exercise recommendations, supplements. Those are not required. They are just recommendations if that's something that you do want to do. Night one of our workshop, we go over the biggest factors that are preventing you from being able to lose weight. Night two, we go over your results and your plan in small breakout sessions with a coach who is specifically chosen to help you understand everything. They know your history. They've read your intakes. So they are dedicated to helping you understand what your body needs and go over your plan with you. And then you can ask whatever questions that you want. So it's your one-on-one time. Well, small group, there's usually about 5 of you, to really understand what your body needs so you can finally lose weight. And again, everything is 100% customized to you. Nobody gets the exact same plan. And of course, as always, we like giving away free stuff. So one woman is going to win 3 months of free coaching. So if you want to learn more, there's more in the show notes. There's a link and all that kind of stuff for more information. So back into the meat and potatoes. Meal prepping, the thing that everyone hears and they kind of cringe a little bit. That goes along with tracking, right? Everyone's like, oh, I don't really want to do that. It seems like a lot of effort. So one of the most important things, again, for setting up for success is going to be planning ahead. Planning, prepping, sometimes cooking several days worth of meals ahead of time has a number of proven advantages, such as saving you time, to help you get a wider variety of nutrients in your diet. And the list really goes on. And I don't know about you guys, but for me, I do not like having to make a bunch of decisions. I feel like I do that all day in work. I'm constantly making decisions and go. So then if someone asks me, aka Taylor, if he asks me what's for supper, I want to cringe, right? So we do lots of meal planning ahead of time. I'll touch on that a little bit briefly here, but every Sunday we have a marriage journal that we write in, and we answer questions, talk about our week, what our week coming up looks like, what we need extra support with that week based on our schedules or things that we're struggling with. It's really just a great way to touch base with what we need. But after we finish our marriage journal, what we have is a little weekly calendar. It's a whiteboard. So we write down what events we have that day. So for me, example, most Tuesdays, I'm going to be doing a live training in the Facebook community, a webinar of some sort for free. So Tuesday nights, Taylor knows that's typically his night to cook, or I'll just make a ton of extra food on Monday if that's my night to cook, so that we have leftovers for the next day. But what we like to do is see our whole entire week. We write down our events, so what we have going on. So if you have kids, this is a great opportunity to be like, okay, we have this tournament. Jimmy has this activity on Wednesday. We have this, we have that. So it really helps you see what days you're really busy, because the days that you're really busy, it's going to be easy to want to swing in and grab some fast food or things like that, right? So it helps you be aware of if you have a busy week ahead, so you can make better decisions, plan some snacks, things to go to really set you up for success. That way you're not scrounging at the end of the day trying to be like, oh, do I need more protein? I didn't eat enough, or I ate too much, or things like that, right? So we find that very helpful. I will admit Taylor does a lot of the cooking now because life has just been very busy. But usually when things are a little bit less chaotic, we definitely just take turns. But it's fun. It's a good way to go about things. And I'll talk about what that meal prepping kind of process looks like. So meal prepping can really help eliminate impulsive food choices, like I mentioned, especially when you find yourself overly hungry or you've been rushing around and all of a sudden you're starving. And then what happens when we're in that situation, we've been go, 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 go all day, our cortisol levels just keep climbing up and climbing up and climbing up. And then what ends up happening is our glucose levels really start to tank. And our body is like just trying to pump sugars into our bloodstream through cortisol. But eventually when you kind of get that time to relax at the end of the day, this is where those cravings really come in. And you're just like, any food decision will likely feel a lot more impulsive, like you have less control. You're typically going to give into those cravings. And your brain is really just looking for those quick energy sources, which often come in the form of some overly processed foods. This is where, McDonald's might be super tempting, or a bag of chips, or things like that, right? Where probably not the most nutrient dense best options. And while you can enjoy those things, we want to make sure that doesn't become the default all the time, which, let's face it, with kids' activities and rushing around all the time is very, very likely. So meal prepping does really help you counteract that, so that you're not found in that trap of like, holy crap, I'm hungry, I'm going to eat whatever I can get my hands on. And the food choices we make aren't typically the best. So when we make so many choices throughout our day, making decisions can be just so mentally exhausting. Especially if you're working in a very high demand job, or, you're with your kids all day and it's just like, go, 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 go. And then when you're mentally exhausting, it can really impair your self-control, negatively impact the quality of your decisions as well. And meal prepping really removes the need to choose, and can help prevent you from reaching the point of decision fatigue, which can also help lower stress and your cortisol levels. So if I have a very hectic day, and at the end of the day, it's like, okay, what do I want to have for supper? I'm like, I don't know, let's just order pizza, right? Like, I just don't want to think. So if I already have something pre-planned, it's a lot easier. I don't have to think. That's one less decision, and it makes things so much easier. So at the end of the day, if you've had a rougher day or you are really tired, you want to have a meltdown if you're trying to figure out what to eat, or you're just like, screw it, I'm not going to eat. And then you end up binging on things later. So meal prepping can really, really help with this a ton. It can save you a significant amount of time and money, but it can feel really overwhelming at first. So I'm going to go over some of the most helpful tips that I find has helped our clients, as well as myself in my life, and is really helpful for everyone, regardless of what your situation is or how busy you are and stuff like that. So number one, keep it as simple or as elaborate as you want. Prepping everything for the week on Sundays works a lot for many people. But if that's not your style, you can choose a day that works for you. So you can spread the prep work out however you want and however it makes sense for your schedule. Flexibility is key, like making sure you're not being too rigid sometimes, because then that can cause more stress than anything else. So meal prep should make your life easier, not harder. So remember, you don't have to make it Instagram-worthy meals either. It doesn't have to look super beautiful. Most of the time our meals do not, and that's okay. So it doesn't have to be these crazy elaborate meals and doing everything in advance, which brings me to step number 2. You don't have to plan out every single meal ahead of time. Instead, just pick some veggies, some proteins, some starches that you can throw together at a moment's notice. It takes away the pressure from having to eat exactly what you have planned. You'll have more flexibility so you don't feel stuck. So that brings me to number 3, which is prioritizing proteins and veggies. So carbs and fat are super easy to come by. You got your potatoes, you got your rice, you got your pasta. Those are pretty easy, simple things. Protein and veggies usually require a lot more planning. So having ready to go protein options in your fridge at all times is super helpful. So whether that's a rotisserie chicken or you even buy shredded chicken, maybe you cooked up some chicken breasts, or maybe there's some ground beef, some meatballs, things like that. It can make it so much easier because those are typically the things that are a little bit more time consuming. And then making veggies in bulk. Don't be afraid to utilize frozen veggies. Those are super great if you're short on time. So for example, for myself with protein options, we're usually going to have chicken or beef in our fridge at all times. And it might not always get done on Sunday. It might be a different day of the week. But for me, for example, let's say we just cook up like 4 or 5 chicken breasts. We just season them, maybe some Italian seasoning. Maybe I might do like some lemon and oregano instead. Maybe it's just salt and pepper. Maybe it's some Cajun seasoning, whatever it might be. And then that chicken breast, cut it up in advance if you can, super helpful. But then you can toss it in wraps, sandwiches, soups, quesadillas. You can do chicken burrito bowls. You can shred it up and cut it up for white chicken chili. You can add it into so many things. So let's take a chicken burrito bowl or a chicken Greek bowl, for example. Super easy. If I already have chicken cooked up, I can either toss rice in the rice cooker or just warm up the minute bag rices in the microwave. I just chop up some veggies. And if you have veggies chopped up in advance, awesome. We used to do this all the time where we'd cut up some onions, some peppers, some tomato in advance. So we could toss those veggies into a scramble in the morning, or we can toss it in a salad or in a wrap, or in this case, it would be your Greek bowls. So if you already have that cut up, all you're waiting for to make your Greek chicken bowls is just the rice. So in a minute and a half in the microwave, you have your chicken cut up. You add in your peppers, your onions, your tomatoes, cut up some feta cheese in there if you want, add in some greens if you want to add some extra crunch from some romaine lettuce, toss in some tzatziki sauce, you're good to go. That meal literally took you 2 minutes because you already had chicken cooked and you already had veggies prepped up. If you didn't have the veggies prepped up, add an extra 3 minutes. Super quick, super easy. So this is where it can be really helpful to just have some of that stuff made up. Same with cooked beef. You don't even have to season it. You can have cooked ground beef and then you can toss it in pasta sauces. You can toss it in chili. You can add some taco seasoning afterwards for wraps and tacos, quesadillas. There are so many options. So if you already have stuff pre-cooked, amazing. And even if you don't have time to cook it before, swing by the grocery store, pick up a rotisserie chicken. Pick up cooked chicken that's already cut up. There's lots of options like that can just make your life so easy and you don't have to think. Frozen salmon is always a great option too. Things like that. So figuring out what that really looks like for you and what those go-tos are and what you like can just make life so much easier. Number 4, eat similar foods 80% of the time. So find your staples. Again, that ground beef, that chicken, your rice, your favorite veggies, whatever that looks like. We do roasted veggies, which I really enjoy too. And then knowing how to prepare your go-to foods will definitely streamline your process because it saves you time and energy and you don't have to think. It becomes mindless. Like tacos, easy. When people are like, oh, I really like tacos, I'm like, amazing. And they're like, oh, there's a lot of carbs in it. I'm like, no, it's great. Just add more than a quarter cup of ground beef to your taco. Make it a half cup. Make it really beefy. So good for you. Tons of protein. It'll be filling and you're good to go. But then the other 20% of the time where you don't feel like you're exhausted, then that's when you can really challenge yourself and try some new recipes. And that can take the guesswork out of it if you already have those recipes in advance. And that you don't get burnt out from your staples. So we have certain things that we put on rotation. For us, the Greek chicken bowls are a big one. Tacos are a big one. Any kind of chicken, something, big fan of different chicken bowls. We just have those staples that we typically go to and we enjoy, but we try to add a new recipe every week or every other week just to change it up, try something new. Pasta tends to be a pretty good one too. White chicken chili, soups are all very common in our household. The next one is finding cookbooks and recipes that already list the macros can be incredibly helpful. For those of you who don't know, we do have an email list, and every Wednesday we send out a new recipe. It has the macros in there for you, so you don't have to guess. We rotate between different desserts and entrees and soups and breakfasts. Like there's so many different options in there. So, I mean, if you've been on our list for a year, you have 52 recipes. That's pretty awesome. That's a different recipe each week for the year if you want to try it out. Making complicated recipes with lots of ingredients can be incredibly overwhelming, especially for trying to track your food. So finding recipes and resources that already take the guesswork out of it can be awesome. If you are tracking and you're trying new recipes, in MyFitnessPal anyways, I don't know about other apps, you can actually copy and paste the ingredients, make your own recipe, divide it by the amount of servings, and then you save it, and then it's in there forever. So the first time you do it, it might be kind of annoying, but then it's in there forever. So just by adding all that stuff in tediously once will be a huge time saver in the future. And then you can write those macros in the cookbook or on the paper or whatever. So when you're looking at it, it just is a little bit easier to figure out when you are planning things ahead, depending on what your goals are at that time. And you can like pre-punch that in. So you know, it's like, oh, I'm a little bit short on protein. If I have this for supper, I'll just have to have more protein at lunch or whatever that looks like. Number 6, get creative with your spices and sauces. Oh my goodness, you guys. I am a sauce queen. I love sauce. So nobody likes bland, dry chicken. It's gross. It's boring. It's hard to choke down. So use lots of spices and peppers and herbs, vinegar, citrus zest, like garlic and ginger. Like there's so many things that you can do. We are a big fan of garlic in this household. So I always say we measure garlic with the heart. That's something I stole from one of my buddies who used to say that all the time. So if the recipe calls for 4 cloves of garlic, we're typically putting in 8. We love garlic. There's also great properties in it and it tastes delicious and it's great for you. But you can do so many different kinds of sauces and seasonings. Like if you go to Pinterest and search up like different chicken marinades or sauces or seasonings, you will come up with so many options. And then you kind of figure out which ones you like the most and then you put those into rotation. It keeps things fun and exciting and you don't get bored of them. The only thing you do have to be mindful of is calorie-rich sauces. So a lot of meals can be made from the same protein, carbs, and veggies just by switching up the sauce can be the only thing different. But just being aware of what kind of sauces you are using can up your calories quite a bit. So I'm a big fan of cream sauces. There's like a creamy Dijon mustard gravy sauce that I use like a lot. I'm a big Dijon mustard fan and big sauce fan. But if you use whole cream, that can add up pretty quick. So I usually use half and half, add some extra cornstarch to thicken it up when I'm cooking it. It like cuts the calories down significantly and it doesn't taste any different. It's really, really good. So that's something that you can swap out easily. But I mean, like, let's say you're having chicken, rice, and veggies. You can have like a teriyaki stir fry one night and then a curry the next. So you can really play around with what those sauces are. Being aware that store-bought brands are typically going to be a little bit more, but again, easy to have on hand if you need. Just be aware of the calories in those as well. Number 7 is be prepared and meal prep essentials. So make your grocery list and shop ahead of time. Make sure you have a good food scale because that can be super helpful. Your measuring cups, your measuring spoons, using your favorite tracking app, and stock up on cute meal prep containers. So for example, for us, I love making lasagna cups. They're like little, like I would say 3-bite size, or you make them in a muffin tin. And you use like a wonton wrapper or dumpling wrapper, sorry. You put some cottage cheese in, you put another wrapper in, you put your inside of your lasagna innards on top, then you put cheese on top, toss them in the oven. And these are super easy, quick grab and go. Taylor and I actually eat them cold a lot when they're in the fridge. But I make double the lasagna insides and we freeze it and we just toss it in a bag. And for that, it's super helpful because you can use that in pastas. You can use it for, again, the mini lasagna cups. But on days where it's like, oh, I just don't want to like think, or we know we're in a pinch, or we don't really like what we had planned for supper, we just defrost that and then we just have it over pasta and we're good to go. Same thing with your meatballs or things like that. Just make extra. And sometimes you can have meatballs and then put sauce on top. Sometimes you might just have meatballs and like mashed potatoes, or you can make a sweet and sour sauce. Like there's so many different options, but when you are cooking those kinds of things, just double it and freeze it. So rotisserie chicken, we'll shred it, toss it in the freezer. With chili, we'll make double, toss the other half in the freezer. There's so many ways to really save yourself time, because there are going to be times where there's chaos or you're sick. And the last thing you want to do when you're sick and it comes up out of nowhere, or your kids are really sick and needy, you don't have time to like cook a bunch of stuff. You're busy. So if you have those things frozen and good to go in your freezer, amazing. Prepping for the family, just keep things simple. Doesn't have to be super crazy. Make meals that can be like quote unquote assembled, if you know what I mean. So you can prep and track your own meals without sacrificing meals with your family. So this is where you would like construct your own tacos or your own bowls or things like that. Those are so much easier to do. Or meat and potatoes. So you're not eating differently. Maybe you're just the only one tracking your food, and that's okay. It's not a big deal. That way you're not the only person at the table like eating something different, because that always feels weird, and you want to enjoy stuff, right? So this can be like your rice bowls, your fajitas, things like that. The other tip that we have, number 9, is finding shortcuts to save on time. So my favorite shortcuts are rotisserie chicken, or that pre-cooked and cut veggies. Canned beans, canned meats like tuna and chicken are super helpful. Microwave rice. I used to live on microwave rice. Pre-cut zucchini noodles and butternut squash. Steam packets of vegetables, pasta, frozen foods. Like you can buy like chicken curry that's already like made and pre-prepped. Roasted beef. Like I used to, Costco, at least in Canada, I used to have these shredded roast beef that you could like just freeze. And those were great when I was in a pinch and working stupid hours when I was single. It was super easy for me to pop that in the microwave. You'd like warm it all up in a glass container. That would take like maybe 2 minutes. I just take it out the morning of and then just warm it up. Then I would steam my rice, which was another minute and a half, steam my frozen veggies or make a salad. Like that meal took 7 minutes to cook. Like there's tons of ways to really utilize things to create these shortcuts. Yes, you plan a little bit at the beginning, but oh man, when you've had a long day, knowing supper's only going to take you 7 minutes is one of the best feelings ever. And it's quicker than actually ordering pizza or things like that. And then number 10, stick to your personal budget. If you're on a budget, buy your food in bulk. Use frozen and canned foods where you're able. Freeze foods for later. Remember, you're saving money by not eating out. And on the other hand, if budget isn't an issue, utilizing meal prep services can be really helpful. So I've tried HelloFresh before. I've tried Chef's Plate. I loved those. It made it easy not to have to think for just a couple nights of the week. It was super, super helpful. So when we say that you don't have to plan every single meal, this is what Taylor and I do. So breakfast is easy. We kind of have like our staples we go through, so we never plan for it. And my breakfast is one of the following. I'll either have oatmeal that has protein powder in it. So I'll buy like the Kodiak oatmeal, or I'll just like add protein powder to random oatmeal packets. Then I will have that with fruit typically, and maybe like a little bit of like turkey sausage on the side or something like that. Big fan of breakfast bowls. Sometimes we'll do tater tots with some greens, some veggies, some egg. If I have some leftover chicken or ground beef, I'll toss that in there too. Maybe if I have like a sauce from the night before, I'll toss it in there, or Dijon mustard is a big go-to for myself. Or I'll have toast and eggs and turkey sausage. I'll do protein pancakes sometimes. I'll do Icelandic yogurt with protein powder and some granola and fruit. Like I have kind of like our 5 that we tend to rotate through. Maybe I'll toss some crepes just for fun. Not a super high protein meal, but every once in a while, you enjoy those things, and that's okay. So breakfast, we never really plan for. We just make sure we have our staples in the house and we're good to go. Lunch is pretty much always going to be leftovers. Maybe I'll have like a sandwich. We have a panini press, which I love, so I'll utilize that a lot. Soup, I do that a lot as well. So lunch is not something I ever really plan ahead for, because I just take leftovers. Super easy. And then supper or dinner, I always get made fun of for saying supper. I guess it's a Canadian thing. So supper or dinner this is where we plan a lot more. So this is where we utilize our schedule. We look ahead, see what we need, and then make double at least of something throughout the week. That way we have something to like toss in the freezer, have it for later. But also we are a big fan of like trying to cook at least the starches or the protein in advance, just so we have some extra stuff for the lunches and things like that. Because for us to utilize just wraps or sandwiches is really, really easy for us. So those are some good essentials to kind of use and utilize. But I'm just going to summarize all these meal prep things. So meal prep and planning doesn't have to be super complicated. You don't have to use a little Tupperware containers and portion and measure everything out equally. That's unnecessary. If it works for you, that's awesome. For me, you will probably never see me do that in my entire life. So keep it simple or elaborate as much as you want. You don't have to plan every meal ahead of time. Just plan some essentials or cook those like major pieces in advance. Prioritize your protein and veggies because carbs are pretty easy to pop in a potato in the microwave. If you want to do a quick baked potato, the microwave rice, the pasta, all those things are pretty quick. Eat similar foods 80% of the time to make things easy. Find cookbooks and recipes that have those macros and calories already broken down in it. Utilize spices and sauces so you don't get bored. Make sure you have the meal prep essentials, so the scales and measuring spoons, all those kinds of things. Keep things simple. It's a lot easier to track things that are like individual items as opposed to a casserole, for example. Find shortcuts to save on time, whatever that looks like, and stick to your personal budget. One more thing that I want to add that is something that I found super helpful for me when I was in a season of crazy, which seems to come up more often than not. But this is something I used to utilize a lot when I was single, and I would make my quick 10-minute meal list and I would have it on my fridge. I would always make sure to have these essentials in my fridge or freezer. So I would have a list of proteins. I would have a list of fruit and veg, and I would have a list of carbs to make things very easy for myself. So I'd always make sure I had some frozen salmon. You pop that in the oven for 20 minutes, cook rice. By the time that's done, it's done. Steam some veggies and you're good to go. So I'd have all these different options of proteins and carbs and fruit and veggies that were easy to make. They were prepped. All these meals would take 20 minutes at the max. So it's faster than ordering pizza. So I'd always make sure I had those things. But then it also has some example recipes of what my go-tos were that were super quick and easy. So sheet pan, chicken fajitas, super simple. A variety of different bowls, different salads, wraps, quesadillas, sandwiches, and then my random like pieced up meals, right? So my frozen beef rib, whatever you call it that I was talking about, the beef roast that's already sliced up and frozen. So I could have that with my rice packets and a salad or whatever. So I'd have different combinations made up because it makes things so much easier. So that if you do have something come up last minute, which let's face it, that's life and it happens. When you come home, you can just look at the fridge, pick something and go. That way you're not thinking. So having honestly just a couple pages of those things would be super helpful. This is something I'm going to be building and tossing into our Facebook group to help people out in the new year as well. So if you want a copy of that, it'll be in our Facebook group soon. So make sure that you head there to have access to that because it just makes life so much easier. I'm going to get Coach Corinne to help me with a plant-based one as well for those of you who prefer to eat plant-based. And hopefully all this was helpful. I hope you guys can look back at 2024 or look back at 2023, see everything that you've accomplished, set some great goals for 2024 that are realistic, that are doable, that you can do for the rest of your life. And if you need help coming up with that plan, our workshop is a great place to start. Again, more information on that in the show notes. You guys have a wonderful 2024. 2023 was amazing, and I'll talk to you guys all soon. Bye.